Welcome to Healing Highs with Laura, where we talk about the highlights and serendipitous moments of our healing journey. I'm Laura. Thank you for being here. Today, I want to talk about ancestral healing, and I want to start with a question. So, do you or anyone in your family experience codependency, hypervigilance, lack of emotional intelligence, unhealthy attachment, substance abuse, difficulty with your weight, hypervigilance, difficulty trusting others, or mental health conditions? So this is a limited list, but these things can be signs of generational trauma or where our ancestors moved through something that we continue to carry through this day. Generational trauma, obligations, patterns, beliefs can be passed down both genetically and culturally. The good news about that is that healing can also be passed down. So how we respond to our life situations are often thought of as being solely tied to our personal past experiences, especially if that includes trauma. Research shows that generational trauma can get passed down through a person's DNA to their offspring through epigenetic changes. When a person or a group of people go through something traumatic like war, racism, natural disasters, any more outcomes of trauma, it can carry through the generations and even beyond that one generation to generations that did not experience it firsthand. A few podcasts back with Janelle, Reiki Master, we were talking about this, and we were talking about how healing can change your family, change your ancestry, change future generations. And I was mentioning in that podcast that at the time I was reading a book where they talked about this study where they had mice and they would spray a scent and then they would scare the mice. So the mice started to associate the scent with fear. And then the mice had offspring, and the offspring also associated that smell with fear, even though they did not experience it firsthand. And it's so eye-opening because they're doing more and more research like this, and we understand, like we've all experienced in science class, behavioral psychology, maybe that, there is this reinforcement. But when you think of the generation that didn't experience it, how incredible that is that the genetics were changing to keep them surviving. So it moved into the mice in their genetic cells. So we have this actual science, and there's more and more being studied, and they have this proof. And of course, all of that is great, but I want to talk about things that could be energetically passed down and exist in the energetic field. So some beliefs and patterns that maybe weren't behavioral, that could even be dormant in our parents, but our grandparents had it, or great-grandparents who you didn't even know, could be affecting you. And these things could be positive, they could be negative, they could be supportive, they could be limiting, just depending on how they express in your life. So I feel like many of those things can be passed down. You can even get into the idea of curses and spells that were placed on ancestors 3 and 5 generations back, or even further back, and maybe somehow feel like it's affecting you. So that brings me to our topic today, ancestral healing, and I want to focus on the energy part of that. Ancestral healing is a type of healing where we look at the possibility of the actions of our ancestors creating beliefs, obligations, patterns, energies that affect us, again, whether it's positive or negative, supportive or limiting. And I want to kind of take that piece by piece. So maybe there is a pattern that you notice in your family, or maybe you're experiencing a pattern that no one in your family experiences, but you do, and it could be passed down through or from your ancestors. So maybe you experience an obligation. So that is something that where you feel like you didn't even realize you were doing it. It could be subconscious because your energy knows that it's something that everyone in your family does. And that's a way for you to feel a part of your family. A great example of that is if everyone in your family has food issues and you do too, whether it's overweight or restricting food, there's this theme, this energy of we all are experiencing an unhealthy relationship with food. So you subconsciously or consciously continue this pattern because you feel obligated energetically to be a part of this energetic frequency of your family. Like substance abuse or addiction, maybe your parents don't have that, but you do, and your grandparents or your great-grandparents did. There's a lot in there, of course, that's behavioral, but there's a lot in there that could show up as subconscious beliefs. There's also a possibility that there's an obligation in the energy to continue that addiction or the energy of that addiction in a different way than your grandparents did, or even the same way. So addressing this obligation energy to say you could release that obligation and still be a part of your family, be a member of your family without having to carry that pattern or obligation forward. So in both these examples, we can talk about subconscious beliefs. We can talk about that there could be subconscious beliefs about these things in the spaces within you where you are connected to your ancestors, and those things are affecting you in this life. Curses, spells, same idea. You could go back generations and find somebody thought so low of themselves that when someone put a curse on them and their family, they accepted it as real, and it affected you or your whole family all of these generations since. I've had a number of clients that ask me, do you work with curses or spells? I think my family has one, or I think maybe my ancestors did, and I'm feeling the repercussions of that, or all the women in my family experience something, so I feel like there's a curse on all the women. And it's much easier to resolve than we think. There's many ways to heal these things, and there's many ways to respond to these observations in your life. You can do it through meditation, journaling, therapy. One of my top 2 favorite ways in any healing is the intentional ancestral healing with plant medicine. And with whatever plant you're working with, that healing from that plant guiding you, giving you a perspective, an opportunity within the plant medicine and spirit of that plant to heal these things on an ancestral level for your family. And of course, my other favorite ways to heal is energy healing. Top tier is theta healing. You can do ancestral healing through so many energy healing modalities, whether it's Reiki, shamanic journeying, theta healing. These things can take means, and so I want to offer you some things you can do today so that you could go on, to support your own ancestral healing, or maybe this is the beginning of it for you. But before I do that, I always love to share a personal highlight of my healing that I hope can help you and support you, to continue or begin your ancestral healing, not only because it makes your life easier, it also helps you flow with the divine more because you're helping your family heal, your family's overall healing. It heals your future of your family and your ancestors. I would say about 8 or 9 years ago, I was experiencing a lot of healing and observation of the things in my world, in my relationships, that were things related to my grandparents on both sides. Not necessarily my parents. I can see now, like, there is covert things happening there that are related, but it was more obvious that it was my grandparents. And I started to get really serious about healing these things for myself and my relationships, and really seeing and feeling my grandparents' energy around. And even my great-grandparents, I started to have these experiences where I would receive information or insight about something that I thought my great-grandparents went through, and I would reach out to my family and they would confirm that those things were true. And sometimes I didn't know my grandparents, or if I did, I was very, very small, so there's not really a way I could have known these things that happened, especially when they were younger. So I really felt supported to continue down this path of healing things that were happening in my world. In the beginning, I was doing it through observation. I was doing it through sort of looking at my own behaviors and the behaviors of the people around me and how I take part in that. What do I want to change? And then I started really moving into healing on a deeper level. I experienced ancestral healing through plant medicine, and I experienced ancestral healing through theta healing and other modalities. And if you've ever gone through ancestral healing, you have this thought a lot of the time in the beginning of like, why do I have to do this? Why do I have to be the one to heal for my grandparents or heal for my parents? Why me? And intermittently at that time, I would have those thoughts, and sometimes it would, last a day to, it could be weeks. I would, not want to do it at all, just depending on what I was moving through. And eventually I was able to come to a place that I was grateful for the opportunity to heal these things. And I was grateful that I was capable of it. I was so happy that I had so many opportunities and modalities around me to support me in this healing. And I really was trusting that what I was doing was not only helping me in my relationships, but also my family and my ancestors. And I was feeling really great about it. And also I could tell it was part of my purpose. So that felt really good when I was doing it, just like felt like the right thing. And I started to move into this space where I just had this feeling of gratefulness to do this. I was really honored to be doing this healing work. So maybe from that point where I was really moving into this place of honor, that I could do this for my family, and I was so privileged to be able to experience and help, I would say that was maybe the way it was for another 5 or 6 years. Because, you're just continuing to do the healing. And I was really able to maintain that state. Of course, there's like small moments that you can still have where you're like, why me? But it's not like how it was. And I would remember, like, I am really grateful for this. So I was in a plant medicine ceremony about 5 or 6 years into that. And in the ceremony, I had this feeling and this vision that I was surrounded by my ancestors. And oftentimes in plant medicine ceremonies, my ancestors will come through and show me certain things, give me different insights, and support me, make me laugh if I'm moving through something really hard. And in this one, I saw myself kind of at the bottom of a family tree that was of humans. It wasn't a drawing. And I, have siblings, but, for the purpose, I think, of what they wanted to show me, I was at the bottom alone. And then it was like my parents above me and my grandparents above them, great grandparents. And it really grew up and wider, taller and taller, going so far above me. It just was so many people. And I don't, it's like as far as you can imagine. So it just felt like thousands and thousands of people as it continued. And I was in complete awe because I could see that if I kind of zoomed into it, even though I'm at the bottom, I can also like kind of polylocate to the different parts of this family tree. And I could see and experience clusters of different ethnicities or time periods. And they would show me, like on my Mexican side, like a certain way that they dressed in a certain time period and that kind of cluster of family. And then, another cluster of people that had a mix of other ethnicities. And then I have some Norwegian ancestors and that cluster of a certain time period where they were dressed or how they were dressed. And just various other indigenous, French, all the different parts that come to make up me. And I was really overwhelmed with how beautiful that was and how vivid it was. And I was just like soaking it all in and really discovering and investigating it. And the vividness and the power of it It was just so amazing. So as I kind of moved back into myself, I got this message that the healing I'm doing, the healing that's affecting my ancestry and affecting my DNA, my family's energy, that not only did I choose this, which of course I knew, but they said, we chose you and we trust you to do this. And it really, when I felt that, even though I knew it, it was like the way they worded it and their energy all giving me that level of trust was something so important to them and to our ancestry from all these different beings. It just overwhelmed me to tears. And even though I knew that and I knew it for so long, it just deepened it and expanded it. And it just was like breathtaking to hear those words. We chose you. We trusted you with all of our healing and the responsibility of that. And it did not feel overwhelming at all to be a part of this. It felt, again, like the most incredible privilege. Does that mean I'm the only one in my family, in my genetics doing this? Absolutely not. But I'm one of them, and I take it very seriously, and I make it a focus of my healing. So how can you do this? To start working directly with the spiritual realms and energies of our ancestors, I want to give you some ideas. Just very simply, you can make an altar to your ancestors. You can put anything on this, from candles, plants, things that are important to you, pictures of your ancestors, different stones. If you have like jewelry of your ancestors, a necklace, a watch that your grandparent wore, your ancestor wore, put those on your altar. This starts to draw the intention and a place for them in your life and in your energetic fields. Then when you're ready, you can sit at your altar, light your candle, close your eyes, focus on your breath, get still, and create a protection of your space. And you can imagine putting a light of love and healing through you and around you. And then you have the option to pick one ancestor that you would like to speak to. Maybe it was somebody that you knew. Maybe it was somebody that you didn't know. Or you could go back so many generations. You could even call in all of your ancestors. You can do anything. So you do this, call them into your space through love, sit in meditation with them. Just feel their energy. If you feel like you can get to a place where you could ask a question, I always say it's easiest to ask a yes/no question, because if you're not sure if you're receiving messages or words or what is it, a yes/no is a pretty simple energy to sense or hear or see. So ask them a yes/no question and feel, hear, see what the answer might be. When you feel ready, you could ask open-ended, bigger questions and just sit and listen for their guidance and their wisdom. Ask them to be around more, to support you. And if in these moments you don't necessarily get any messages or anything, that's okay, because you're clearing the channel of communication with them. And the more you do it, the more open that channel will be. And you will be able to, in the future, feel, see, hear those answers. Or sometimes you can ask a question in the meditation and then go about your life, and suddenly like a song comes on the radio and it's your grandmother's favorite song, and it confirms for you, what you had asked or that you connected with her. To some really gnarly things where like you could be in the grocery store and a woman could come up to you and be like, your grandmother wants me to tell you, don't move, something really clear and strong, which is like the kinds of signs we always want, right? Like, what's that? There's like a meme that says, I got 5 signs, but I need signier signs because I want to really validate and confirm what I'm getting. So again, you're just opening up the channels of communication. You're building and strengthening those to make it clearer so that you can continue to have these conversations with them and have this connection with them. So when you feel like you're in a space with this that you can move into wanting to heal, some certain things that you can start to ask for their assistance in healing whatever it is that you feel like is something that came from your ancestors. Ask them for healing, ask them for support with that. They will provide you with that healing, or they will provide you a way to receive that healing in this world, in this lifetime. Some other things that can help are to identify the behaviors or the beliefs, obligations, patterns, trauma, and move through your own understanding and acceptance of those, setting boundaries, practicing self-care, self-love. Those things are going to further the healing and support it. And you're going to know it's working when you start to experience, or you see your family members experiencing, the ability to express their emotions. You're trusting people more. You are calling people into your life who are trustworthy, that you see your family member connecting more, communicating better, facing your fears. So you start to see you or your family shifting in these ways. This episode is sponsored by Seva Tea, handcrafted for the conscious soul. Deeply rooted in the ancient wisdom of Ayurveda, each sip, Seva Tea invites you on a sacred journey of self-care, elevating your soul through a mindful practice. Seva Tea is available at Seva Tea Lounge inside Kavala Wellness in Long Beach, California, and on Etsy. Learn more at Seva Tea Lounge on Instagram. Today, I want to give you a brief meditation to help you connect with your ancestor today. I want to do it from a completely different angle than what we've talked about. I want to do it from the angle of what were the positive things that you got from your ancestors. What were the things that they did in their lives that could help you? So this sort of is the opposite of everything we've been talking about. This whole time we're looking at limiting things, trauma, but there's also really beautiful, amazing things that your ancestors did for you and prayed for you and created in their lives and learned in their lives that could help you in your life. And so we should also be looking and tapping into those things as well, because that is ancestral wisdom. So that's really important to look at. And I feel like maybe we don't talk about that as much. We're always looking at the negative, limiting, traumatic things. But let's look at the positive. So I'm going to take you through that now. So if you're in a space where you feel safe, you can go ahead and close your eyes. And take a deep breath in. Exhale. And just bring a light of love into your body and see yourself surrounding your space with this light of love. I want you to think of something that you would like more of in your life right now, whether it's something that could help you through a challenge, or maybe you're trying to amplify a certain positive feeling even more. Just think of something that you would like more of in your life that's positive. And we're going to ask whichever ancestor can support you with their wisdom, for those ancestors to come into your space in a loving, truthful energy. And just sit quietly, starting to sense their energy around you. Start to connect with them. Take a moment to ask this ancestor or ancestors, what wisdom could they give you today? What type of support could they offer you? And just, again, sit and listen, see if you feel, hear, or see anything. Allow the energy of what they want to offer you to be received through their ancestral wisdom, through the energy of love, and just observe that coming into your space. When you're ready, take a deep breath. And we give gratitude to our ancestors for this connection and knowledge and support. And you can go ahead and open your eyes. And it might be a good idea to journal anything right now that's coming through to help you remember and further that information flowing through. Thank you so much for being here with me today and moving through this beautiful energy, remembering that you are connected to some really incredible and powerful souls. And as you know, we always end the podcast asking the void a question. Void, do you know you have fans?
Yes.
Okay, follow-up question. Is there a message you have for your fans?
Hello.
So kind. Thank you, healer, for joining us today. I wish you joy and serendipity on your healing journey, and I hope our paths cross again.